Hello, and welcome to a technical overview of Data Discovery Essentials, the new tool from SecurEnvoy for doing data discovery projects. We offer this as a 30-day project, for example, to find out where your sensitive data is held in your environment. It's a tool that can also do things like DSARs, so Data Subject Access Requests, so finding that information that you hold about a user when they ask you, and being able to marshal that information into a location and present it so you can actually answer those DSARs in a timely manner and avoid any trouble with data protection authorities. So let's have a quick look through what sort of functionality we can provide. So, starting down here, the dashboard brings us to these tasks, and these tasks allow us to search for data, provide warnings to users when they've got sensitive data. So the real-time protection is a system of warning users when we find sensitive data dynamically on their device in a folder or USB pen drive, for example. And our data retrieval tasks, which are the ones that will allow us to do DSARs. So to create a new task, it's as simple as creating a new task. So we'll create a new search task first. As you can see, we've got some available targets to begin with. Endpoints and file servers. So this is the one of the big ones where all that information is held on laptops, desktops, file sources. Office 365, Alfresco and Atlassian as well are all supported by the product. Others will be added in the future. Selecting next brings us through to a task name, so we'll do a basic search task. And we can assign this task a priority. So this is going to tell the endpoints, for example, how much resource they should dedicate to this search when they are doing it. So should they use up more user resources to make it faster, but obviously that will impact users slightly more, or should we make it a low priority task where it'll just bumble away in the background? We're going to use a medium task for this particular demonstration, and that's quite simple, easy, and it will do a nice middle ground between those two. Then we can select if we've got any cloud actions we want to take. We're not going to use Alfresco or Atlassian in this particular case, so we're going to jump straight to our patterns. So patterns-wise, you'll see we've got selections of patterns from across the world. So credit cards, international banking numbers, SWIFT codes, medical information, email addresses, they're all universal, so they come into the global codes. We've got codes for different countries as well. So for the United Kingdom, the sorts of things you'd want to recognise, such as passport numbers, NHS numbers, national insurance, social security numbers in America, passport numbers from America, taxpayer IDs, and Canada, and all these, you've got the personal identifying numbers basically. So anything that's not covered in these that needs to be done, so German passports and other personal IDs, for example. You can select which ones you want, or you can select all of them, and that will allow you to search for all of that sensitive data. You can then make your own custom patterns as well. So if you want to search for particular keywords, which when you're doing DSARs, which we'll touch on in a little bit, will be very vital, or if you've got your own customer type reference numbers, or you're looking for a particular contract or something, you can put keywords in here. You can have lists of keywords, so allow you to make a CSV or text file containing those, a dictionary of terms you want to look for. You can add those. You can look for similar files, and this is one of the cool things that this product can do. You can give it a template. Say, for example, you send out a pro forma form to new customers, which they need to fill in with their name and personal details. You can actually teach this system the pro forma, and then it will look for files that are similar within 80% of that pro forma. So what it's basically going to return to you is filled in pro formas. So all of those ones that have been filled in with personal details, you can search by that by teaching it similar files, and it uses a form of very clever fingerprinting to do that. Regular expressions, so if you have customer reference numbers of a certain type and format, we can teach the system to look for those. So a bank might have a mortgage reference number, or retail might have a customer reference number, a customer card number, for example. That's fine. We can teach it those as well and look for those sorts of bits of data. And then compound patterns allows us to search for two patterns at the same time. So we could look for a known pattern with a keyword near it, or we could look for two keyword lists that need to be in the same document. All of that can be done as well as custom patterns. And if we've made our own compound pattern, we can actually save that pattern and apply it. Right now, we'll just set this task to look for all of those preset patterns. Then in pattern settings, we can change things like confidence. So confidence is how likely that is to be a real hit. And obviously, when we can, we default to high on this. So with credit cards, we're going to look for the credit card number, so it looks like a credit card number. It matches it by the amount of digits in it. Is it separated by spaces or hyphens? And if it's validated by the LUN algorithm, because there's a mathematical algorithm that tells you if a credit card's valid or not. And then if you go to high, we'll use contact words around there as well. So we can select which one we want to go for. Normally, if you use medium, that's fine because you're going to get those credit card numbers and they've got to be mathematical provable, for example. Then we've got things like passports and MAC addresses and email addresses. And you can come through here and you can say, so you can tune this to say, am I happy that I might get a few false positives, but I really need to make sure I get all that information? Well, that's what medium's for. If you're saying, no, I really want to get down to the real key information, high will get that. And if you're saying, I need to get every single hit regardless, even if I have to do a bit of manual work around them, you can set them to low and that will find every single hit of that, but you might need to do some manual work to get rid of those false positives. But that's an option you take depending on what you're looking for in this search. Then you can select threshold, so how many of these need to be in a document before you're worried about it. So you might do bulk searches to look for documents that have got X amount of credit cards in them, and they're high priority documents. You can then deal with them, and then you can start looking at the ones which have got one credit card in them as low priority searches. So all of this is nice and tunable through this interface when you're looking for this data. And finally, we've got filters. So what type of document it is. So we can search for all of these various file types, and these actually have numerous subtypes under them. So if I look for text files, for example, it's CRVs, rich text formats, .text, .texts. Word does all of the doc and docx's and all the other different formats. So this allows you to customize looking for it in the places it's most likely to be. Of course, you can select all of these and open this up, and that'll even then do files with no extension, for example, or compressed files that are in zips. So we can look for that there. If we want to, we can look for data that was created within a certain time frame, or even last modified. So we can start looking for stale data or older, deader data. We can choose whether we want to look in hidden files and system folders. Most times users will never be putting data in system folders, they don't have access to them, but in certain searches you may need to broaden it out there if you know some users have admin access, for example, and hidden folders are very much the same. And then you can tune the search areas you're going to look for in certain things, whether you want to, if you've got Office 365 enabled, whether you want to look in SharePoint and Teams and their calendars and that sort of thing, and all of that can be done by default with search everywhere. Then you create your new search task. It will then come through and confirm all of this. You can come and check, yep, I've got the right patterns, I've set them to the right sort of confidences, got searching the right areas, that's all good. And then you can save that task. You can edit hit here before you save it, or you can save that task, and then that task is going to become one of your search functions you can then use going forward. So once I've saved it, it's logically thinking, well, you've just created this task and saved it, you probably want to run it. You can choose to run the task immediately, or you can cancel and come and run it in a moment. We'll run it right now. So our basic search task that was created on this time and date, so we know the version of the search task we're using, and what priority. So even when we're running it, we can actually change that running priority. The priority when we're creating it's just a default. Whether we want to automate alerts when things are set out, whether we want to run it on all devices, or whether we want to set a list of devices we can set that on, and we'll set that task to run. So that's how simple it is to come in and create one of those data discovery tasks, and that will then go away and then find matches and bring us back to reports. Real-time protection is exactly the same. What's quite clever, so we can actually base it on one of our previous tasks. So I can actually base it on that basic search task, or I can create a new one. So I have a protection task. And you'll notice that a lot of this is going to be exactly the same. So which patterns we're going to use, whether we want to use keywords or compound patterns. So I'm going to bounce through a lot of this. We'll leave those as defaults. Now, this is the areas that we want to monitor for that sensitive data. So if you've got Box or Dropbox or any of G Drive installed on your machine, do you want to be warned if something sensitive gets in there? Because if something sensitive gets in that sync folder, it's obviously going to be uploaded to the cloud. So we might want to monitor people's Dropboxes and say, oh, actually, you've just copied something in there with credit cards. Whether it's shared folders, or their desktop, or their documents folder. So if that's created and comes into an open folder that they might have if they've suddenly got something copied to their desktop or their documents, not where it's properly filed properly, or if they copy it to removable storage such as USB devices. And what's that going to do? It's going to monitor all of those, and if that data gets into those environments, it's then going to immediately pop up a warning to the user saying, oh, actually, you've put something sensitive in this location, and it's going to raise a message on our console so we can monitor those as well and see where people are storing that sort of data. It's not a DLP solution, so it's not going to actually stop them doing that, but it's going to raise awareness and invite them to fix that problem. Again, we can select what types of files, where we're going to look, and what devices we're going to look for. And then we can create that task. Again, save that task, and we've got a task which we can then run. So searching is for looking for data, real time is for warning users they've got sensitive data, and then our last option here is data retrieval. Now I'm going to show you creating a task from a task. So our search we created earlier, I'm going to use that. So this is going to have all of our settings already set, so all of our patterns we were using, any custom patterns we were using, what pattern confidences we're going to use, and what file types we've got. Now it's not going to let me save it because I skipped one thing, which is, where do I want to save this? So the difference between a search and a retrieval task is what it's going to do is it's going to save these files out to a place. And it's going to save those so that when we've done the search, we can look for all those files. And what it's also going to do is deduplicate those results. So if it finds the same file in a file server and someone's email and on someone's endpoint, if it looks at them all and the fingerprints them and they're the same, it's only going to bring back one copy because they're the same document. They've got all the same information. We don't want to be inundated with those same documents. So this has a whole set of deduplication tools in there as well. And that's what that retrieval task will do for us. I will go into here reports in a separate section. They can be quite detailed reports. Administration allows us to add users to the system. Role-based control, so users who can come in and run tasks, run searches. Those users can then be administered so they can actually only search in certain areas. We've got full role-based access control. We can look at the devices we've got attached to the system, some various settings such as what policy we want to look at. So you can specify this when they view their reports, when they get those warnings from things like real-time protection. You can actually have a body of text and a link to actually take them to your policy to remind them why they can't have that data or what type of data is relevant to them. And we've got a full customizable thing such as what alerts we'll raise, are we going to alert by email or just pop-ups on devices, how we communicate with our agents, and our various service logs. So is the tasks running, is the server running? And you can brand this as well. So you can add branding to actually make this your own interface for your users as well. So that's a quick technical run through as to what Data Discovery Essentials can do for you. And I'll go into our 30-day project and that hero report in another video. Hope this has been helpful.